All right, well, we've all had an opportunity to watch Condoleezza Rice today. She was impressive, forthright, as all of us anticipated. There are a couple of observations I would make that I think are appropriate. Number one, prior to 9/11, Congress had certainly not been involved in having hearings on al-Qaeda. No one was as alert as we all wish in hindsight we would have been before 9/11. So it's, I think, more appropriate to focus on where we go from here. And clearly the strategy post 9/11 is to go after the terrorists wherever they are, to try to drain the swamp, and to not focus exclusively on al-Qaeda. Those critics who say that this is all about al-Qaeda are missing the larger question, which is worldwide terrorism and countries that harbor terrorists. And I think Dr. Rice did an excellent job of defending the post-9/11 strategy, which is indeed to go after terrorists wherever they may be and to keep them on defense. And while we fully expect that maybe someday once again we'll be attacked here at home, I think it's clear that the post-9/11 strategies of taking it to the terrorists and passing the Patriot Act, which gave us a chance after 9/11 to have the kind of interaction among our agencies that we didn't have before 9/11, have made a difference in making us more secure here at home. With that, let me turn it over to Senator Collins.
Thank you. I thought that Dr. Rice's testimony was extremely effective. She answered every question very fully with a great deal of candor, and as a result, the Commission and the American people have a much more complete picture of what the administration was working on in the first few months of its term and what its priorities were. One of the most important points that Dr. Rice made was to point out to all of us that the very first major presidential security directive of the new administration dealt with the al-Qaeda network and the need to confront that threat. I also think that she painted the picture of an administration that not only was concerned about this national security threat, but also had a great deal else on its plate. For example, this was during the time when our P3 was in captivity in China, when we were opening negotiations with Pakistan to try to deal with the terrorist threat. There was a great deal of activity underway to confront all of the threats facing our country. I thought she did a superb job and helped to answer many of the questions that have been raised in recent weeks.
Senator McConnell, you mentioned that this is an effort to drain the swamp. In the testimony, the National Security Advisor said, well, this is part of what our activity is in Iraq. Yet that idea of changing fundamentally the Muslim world to be more amenable to the United States has still not been proven. And the situation in Iraq is even more volatile than it was some time ago. Is that an appropriate defense?
Well, a way of looking at it, interestingly enough, there was a recent survey taken by the BBC and I believe ABC of Iraqis about how they feel about Iraq today and whether or not they're optimistic about the future of Iraq. They overwhelmingly feel that Iraq is better today for them than it used to be, and they are extraordinarily optimistic about where they're going to be a year from now. A clear indication that Iraq is on the way to becoming one of the sort of unique island in the Middle East where citizens get to choose their own leaders and get to speak freely. Are there security problems? Obviously there's security problems. We haven't completely drained the swamp in Iraq yet. It's not an easy task, but there is no chance that we will leave prior to finishing the job in Iraq. No chance.
Senator, do you support Classification of the August PDB, given that they're now on the record clear disagreements about what's in it?
I don't have an opinion on that. We'll have to wait and see what's worked out.
Whether or not the American people should be able to clarify what some of these disagreements by seeing this document for themselves?
My opinion is that the administration and the commission will continue to discuss those issues and hopefully be able to resolve them.
No opinion.
We haven't heard from Senator Smith yet.
Thank you, Senator McConnell. Ladies and gentlemen, I think it's important to say as Republicans that in what we've been through as a country, it's important not to ascribe blame to President Clinton or President Bush. This was an unprecedented attack upon our country, and no president, Republican or Democrat, would fail to act if they felt they could prevent the premeditated murder of 3,000 of our fellow citizens. And unfortunately, in this political year, in this hyper-political environment, what we have seen is the politicalization of the testimony that has been given. And I think this is deeply unfortunate and very regrettable. I think what we've all heard from Dr. Rice this morning, though, is a truthful account of someone who was in a pre-9/11 environment and in a post-9/11 environment, and a very earnest effort to do the very best job they could with the facts they had, with all the loose ends that were out there. And I think when Mr. Clark answered the question of Senator Gorton, that had all his recommendations been taken, that we still could not have prevented 9/11, that said it all. And anything more than that is about selling books and selling a political spin. And I think that that is most unfortunate. And hopefully the American people now have some counterbalance in how to judge all the facts. This isn't about blaming President Clinton. It's not about blaming President Bush.
Senator, do you support the declassification of the August PDB?
I think, as Senator McConnell has said, let them negotiate it. There may be information in there that is important to national security, but I think more information is better and would err on the side of disclosure, but I will leave that judgment to them.
What do you think of Senator Bob Kerry's comments in there about the Iraq situation? What do you think about him using that platform, so to speak?
I didn't hear what Senator Kerry said. So.
I did.
You want to go? Yeah.
How unfortunate.
You're the unlucky one. Ask if you want.
I heard half.
Personally, or
Said the military operations are dangerously off track.
Thank you.
What was the question?
the
Said the military operations in Iraq are dangerously off track. Would you agree with that?
Well, look, Senator Kerry is a member of the commission. He's doing a good job. I think to judge the situation in Iraq on any given day is a mistake. It's a long process. And there are good days and there are bad days. As Secretary Rumsfeld has pointed out, we've had a few bad days in the last couple of weeks. I predict many good days ahead. I think the swamp is in the process of being successfully drained.
Senator,
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Can I have one last question, please? Senator, you said that she did the best with the facts that she had. And you have reports that, and these are her reports, unbelievable news in coming weeks. Big event. There'll be a very, 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 very big uproar. There will be attacks in the near future. Was she derelict in not calling the big three, the CIA, the FBI together?
I think the problem they had is it wasn't specific. There were no specifics in that. What's a big event? Is it a nuclear attack? Is it taking airplanes and flying them into the World Trade Center? How could anyone have really anticipated that? I always believed prior to 9/11 that hijackers wanted to live. I don't believe that anymore. And I think that mindset has changed for every American who's willing to be fair about the facts and what they were dealing with. And as to the question about Iraq and its military situation, I think it's really important to understand that we're not losing this war. In fact, most of the Iraqi people appreciate what we're doing and want us to be there and want us to succeed, and we don't hear enough of that in the media. And it's important that the American people hear that. There is clearly a segment of Iraq that was financially vested in Saddam Hussein and who want this to fail and who do hate Western values and who lose through democracy. But we are not losing this fight, And frankly, I think we're stepping up to the plate with this deadline and accelerating the actions of some of these people, drawing them out of their hiding places and getting us in a position where we can take them on so that we can turn this country over to a democratic process and ultimately have succeeded in one of the great foreign policy endeavors of this country since the ending of the Cold War.
Yes, let me just say that I am very pleased that Condi Rice came and did such a credible and good job of talking about where they were and the information they had. But I think it is time, now that the commission is winding down its deliberations, getting all of the information, that we focus on the future. Yes, we need to know what happened in the past. Yes, we need to know who knew what and when for protecting ourselves in the future. But I think we are diverting from the need to support our commander-in-chief, to support our troops in the field, to finish the job in Iraq. We must be united, that we cannot allow Iraq to fail. We cannot allow the instability to remain. And all of us should unite now and not focus completely without looking at the future on what happened and who knew what and when.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Failure, or was this a strategy? Was this a policy failure or an intelligence failure?
It was an intelligence failure.
Hello, my name is Kyle Hentz, and I am co-founder of 9/11 Citizens Watch. Hello, my name is Kyle Hentz, and I'm co-founder of 9/11 Citizens Watch. We are a watchdog group that's been monitoring the course of the government's investigations for over 2 years. We launched formally at the first hearing that was held in New York, and I'd like to make a few comments about the conduct of this commission. First of all, we feel that it's deeply compromised, and we do so for a variety of reasons. First off, there are many conflicts of interest in members of this commission. Dr. Zelikow has close ties with Dr. Rice, has co-authored a book with her. He has served on the transition team. He was in those meetings where the Clinton administration officials briefed the incoming Bush administration officials about the threat. The commission has interviewed over 1,000 people. Most of those interviews were not under oath. The American public do not know that. Many times those interviews were conducted with administration minders or agency minders from the CIA, so if a CIA official was interviewed, there would be a minder sitting over his shoulder. It was only from public pressure that this commission began taking sworn testimony in the first place. If no one had said anything, they would have conducted all their hearings without swearing in their witnesses. We find it disturbing that Rice gave 4 hours of testimony in private. This testimony was not sworn. It was not recorded or transcribed. Whereas Richard Clark's testimony, 17 hours of it, was sworn, recorded, and transcribed, and possibly declassified. The Commission has never used its subpoena power to force the disclosure of documents. There have been questions about the PDB. Today we learned that the PDB, the title of the PDB was Bin Laden Determined to Strike in the U.S. This is not an overseas threat. This is a domestic threat. This is after a summer of threats. We've documented through mainstream press sources 11 countries that issued direct warnings, some of them specific about pilots being trained. I watched myself a Putin interview where President Putin of Russia said on MSNBC that he warned the White House in the strongest possible terms that there were Arabs training to fly planes and use them as weapons and crash them into buildings. He repeatedly, this is from a head of state to the head of state. To me, I do not find the testimony of Rice to be credible, that she was not aware of planes as weapons, because we all know she was in Genoa, Italy, with the president at the G8 summit. There was a threat that was received of possible threat from the air, and the G8 summit site was ringed with anti-aircraft defense measures to protect the leaders who were meeting there. So we have great problems with this commission, its integrity. We feel it's made too many compromises. We do not have confidence in its report that it will do a full and complete accounting of the events of 9/11.
Can you spell your name for us, please?
Yes, it's Kyle, Kyle, Hence, and the organization is 9/11 Citizens Watch.
Citizens apostrophe.
Plural, not no apostrophe, just plural.
And you're the co-founder?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.